Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the NextGen Healthcare webinar, where we will be discussing the patient portal and the future, current and future plans in regards to our specific integrations and partnership with the Athena and/or previously Centricity EMR system. So I see some familiar names on here, and looking forward to speaking to you all and some new names as well. Hopefully we'll be able to provide you all some content that's beneficial for you. A little housekeeping, if you could go ahead along the way. If we have any questions that come up, if you can add them to the chat below, we'll make sure we try and answer those for you. If not, we will gather information offline and follow up with you directly. But today for our panel, we have Alan Waters. He's the director of our customer success team. Some of you may have had some interactions with him so far. We have Cheryl Libela. She's the vice president of solutions. And we have Sarah Davis. She's the director of our solutions as well. And she will be telling us the majority of our story today and helping us answer the questions. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sarah and monitor these questions along the way. And please feel free again to ask any questions, and we'll make sure we get to them or follow up with you after the webinar. Look forward to it. Thank you. Sarah?
Yep. Thanks, Reed. Appreciate that introduction. Glad to be here, everybody, today to step through a lot of these changes and information that we think is really important for your segment. And it's been a while since we've been able to reach out to you directly, so we thought it would be a really good idea to customize this content for you directly and get this information out to you. So I'm going to go ahead and start with an overview of our newest release package for Centricity CPS Athena Clinicals, which is available in production now for your practice to schedule an upgrade. And let's go ahead and kind of peek into what is included in that release. Okay, it's the 22.1 release. So at a high level, here are some prerequisites for this release, if any of you are curious. 19 CPS 19 or higher and CEMR 12 or higher, with a server requirement of .NET Framework 4.8 or higher. So in this release, we're able to support display of unsigned labs for on-demand CCD via the WSDK framework. We're able to fix some of the challenges that we've had with special characters in messages. Specifically, this is related to group messages or bulk messages. Also, we've added additional support that lets your practice leverage the RSDK workflows for ARCS renewal, so that now you can have an additional column to allocate individuals for those ARCS renewals to be routed to. And we've fixed some issues within forms, updated some functionality around read receipts, and as well put in some functionality around to help with retries and such, to aid in if there's a lag in the connection with the database strings, that we can successfully recover from those situations. So let's go ahead and let's dive into those functions. All right. So here's a list of kind of what I just mentioned. And here's a screenshot of what we wanted to show you for this new column that we've added to the dashboard under the RX Renewal tab in EHR. And you can see here, maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger for the screen. So you can see here, like under the prescription renewal request, we've added the Route To column. So you'll be able to add rows here and have multiple Route To users for your prescription renewal requests. And I just wanted to highlight as well that you would need to enable this RX renewal via RSDK to take advantage of the RSDK workflow for prescription renewal. All right, so that's one important change. Here's another important change. We now support RX renewal for medications without dosage. that I understand that that is sometimes the case within the centricity world, and that we were airing out on those requests with that payload. So basically, we've made some changes, so we're now able to support that scenario, and we'll just have the NA information with regards to the dosage, but the prescription request will still come through. And you can see like that the prescription request is coming through here on the portal as well with, and we're able to handle that blank dosage value. Okay, so I talked a little bit about increasing our ability to enhance special characters in the CPS mass messaging template. So we've played around with that a little bit here in this example where we're adding apostrophes. And then we can see that the message is coming through. All right. So, you know, here's, we've added this apostrophe in the body of the message of the template, for example. And here is another example of what that might look like. And so now we're going to be able to support that without failing on those types of messages. So here's an example of that coming through. So one other piece that we heard was kind of a pain point, some not quite understanding the usage of this piece in the dashboard, which is under your CCDA section in your MedFusion configuration tool. So we wanted to reiterate that the purpose of this tool is if you select the checkbox, then these sections would be excluded from the patient portal. So we've added a tooltip here so that you remember that checking the checkbox means excluded from patient portal display. So that's something else that we were able to add. So moving on, we had an issue with read receipts where we were dropping some of the text, I guess the first word in the string when we were viewing the read receipts. So that's something that we've addressed now as well. So that's going to show up in like the secure communication as well as the read receipt. Here's an example of that as well. Okay, and moving on. Previously, in your CPS dashboard, there was a hard dependency to always set the destination if the form, even if the form was not yet published. And I understand that that is a little bit of an arduous workflow. So we've now removed that dependency, and you're no longer required to set the destination when you're adding the mappings for your forms that are not published. So here's an example of that here in the system where we don't require the destination. Here's another example. So the system is able to now handle creating the custom form mapping, but without requiring the destination until it's published. Okay, and moving on. We had an issue with sending forms into the CPS system where in some cases we were causing multiple entries to come into the patient chart. And we've now addressed that scenario so that you should only receive one entry for that submission here. Okay. A couple other notes. In appointment display, there, in some cases, for some of our clients, we had identified a stored procedure to alleviate having some appointments be missed in the appointment dashboard, and we've included that in this last package so that it should be available for everybody, so that we have the appropriate triggers and filters for you to be able to display your appointments holistically. Of note is that we had some complaints around demographics coming as in blank. And we actually identified that that was the root cause of that was the patient ID, not the zip code being blank, but that was resolved in last year's package. So I thought I'd just highlight that here. So we did confirm that. So one other addition is we have the feature that you can turn on for your patients so that they can, on the health record page, submit a request themselves to receive the on-demand CCD. And one of the challenges with this integration was to ensure that unsigned labs were coming over, if it is the case that you're looking for your unsigned labs to come over. And so we were able to make a change that's dependent on the WSDK implementation, where we'll now pull over those unsigned labs for clinical summaries. I think, Justin, if you're on, if you wanted to maybe add any details about any of these, I'm happy to turn it over to you to add some additional context about that one.
So for this one, we still have just to let you guys know, we still have like a mixed batch of groups. Some groups have started using Fire. Most groups do have it enabled, but we haven't like set it up specifically in the dashboard. So we do still make SOAP requests to the WSDL for Athena practice and Athena flow. One thing that we've seen is, since V20, that WSDL was changed. And it was causing issues when we're trying to retrieve clinical documents, or even in some cases send clinical documents. So so we updated the WSDLs in code, and it's helping us now to, send these documents or retrieve these documents. There is like a specific request that we had on this issue to expand, the CCD document that's generated, so it includes unsigned lab results. That is something that on a practice level you're gonna have to do within your doc maps. I referenced Athena, some Athena documentation here that gives you an idea of like where those doc maps are. But I think in most cases, if you're changing these things, if it's something that you don't normally do, you probably do want to work more closely with Athena so you don't change anything that's breaking. But once you make those changes and we go and fetch the documents, those details that you're looking for, maybe there's stuff you want to filter via the doc maps, and those things will show up as you expect in the CCD that we get that's generated and sent to the patient. So.
Great. Thanks, Justin, for that. These next couple ones are also a little bit technical in nature. So, I mean, I can review them at a high level, but definitely, Justin, if you want to add a little bit of context, that would be great too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a fix in here for outbound transition of care, so that we now have some more self-healing logic for retries.
That's right. Yep. So when we get the transition of care documents, that's a lot like getting the CCDs. But at any rate, if there's a user that's configured in the MedFusion dashboard under the Events tab, if for some reason that user's password expires or the account gets locked, things like that, it can prevent us from being able to retrieve those documents. In the past, we would see exceptions here, and instead of retrying them, they would go to a hard failed state, like a fatal state, and they would never be sent, even after you corrected the username and password or unlocked the accounts. So we did want to add in retry logic for that specific flow, which we didn't have before.
Thanks. And I guess these next two are specific to the CEMR topology.
Mm-hmm.
One is, again, more of a self-healing change that we made. Do you want to
Yeah.
maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and this came from, specifically from one of our bigger clients, Allergy Partners, where I think they were having some issues in Oracle, where Oracle was essentially down and it ran out of space. And our service was kind of constantly polling, even though it can really get any more connections because there were none available. It was polling and preventing that group from actually making whatever changes they needed to make in their environment. So what we're doing now is, if one of our flows is running and this was specific to Oracle, but we did it for, the Athena practice groups as well. But at any rate, which use SQL, at any rate, what we're going to do is we've added a config and the default value is going to be 30 minutes. And if we get any database connection issues when we're trying to connect to the Centricity databases, we're going to wait 30 minutes within code, and then we'll try to initialize the connection again before we continue to try to take up those connections. So give you guys an opportunity to resolve whatever issues may be happening within the database or within the environment.
Okay. And then finally, we had an error, SSL TLS error when fetching the CCD that would prevent us from completing that CCD workflow in some cases. And now that's been addressed and we're seeing that the CCD office visit workflow is working as expected.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have anything else to add there too, Justin, that'd be great.
Yeah, honestly, the fix here, a lot of what we had to do to update the WSDLs, the SOAP WSDLs, was addressed here. One thing with this release is as well, a lot of groups at this point have at least went to V20, and have started to update, see their environment Windows versions. I think to go to V20, I think the requirements that you at least have Windows, you should have Windows 26 Server 2016. A lot of the SSL and TLS errors that we were seeing, it was just due to the different environments, not being on very specific versions. So with this release, we have retargeted .NET Framework to .NET 4.8, which by default handles these TLS and SSL types of situations better. And .NET Framework 4.8 is something that comes with Windows 2016 by default. So it's the right time to do it. We've held off on that for a while, but I think that's one thing to note is as you take this upgrade, make sure your .NET version is up to par.
Perfect. And I guess this is just like a reiteration of kind of those things that we just mentioned, but mentioning the KI in the description. I think if there's anything else that I didn't mention, Justin, that you wanted to highlight about our changes, let me know.
Yeah, we were going through one flow up towards the top around mass messaging. And on the one hand, yes, we can accept the special characters and the templates, but what was happening in some situations is those special characters were causing the notification that you get on the patient's chart, when a mass message or automated message has been sent. It was causing those inbound messages into the patient's chart, which are just notifications essentially, to display with these weird characters. And that's something that's also, been addressed in this release. So we may need to update this page so you can get an idea of what those special characters look like on the chart and, how it displays now after you take this update. So I would say that's one thing to note.
That's a good point. So this one is showing a apostrophe. Maybe there are some other examples too. of other
Yep.
spatial characters.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of right now?
I think these are the biggest things. There's some more work to be done with like reconciling like inbound medications from forms and allergies. While we can now get the form data in and it flows in good, we were still seeing some issues where we couldn't pull up the reconciliation templates and reconcile those medications and allergies. So there's still work to be done there.
Okay.
Just wanted to call it out for everybody, and a
So-
lot of people have been looking for that one.
So that's a good point. So we made a an executive decision to, cut this package basically and get it out there for our customers. But there are a couple things that we weren't able to address. So we are planning on a point release, actually 2-point releases. So one, 22.1.1 has a specific fix that we're working on for our NEPM customers. So we're recommending that any NEPM typology customers wait until we get this fix out for 22.1.1, which will address invites. So if you have any questions about that, reach out to, Reed, and he can connect you with myself or with Justin, and we can talk about it in a little bit more detail. And then we'll have a following release later on with some of the additional fixes like what Justin's just mentioning, so that we can try to address the allergies. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the next agenda topic, which is just to kind of reiterate, we do publish our PXP Patient Portal and integration release notes on Success Community. So we are still iterating and putting change out there into production at least every 6 to 8 weeks, and actually more often every 2 to 3 weeks. So we recommend everybody please subscribe to Success Community to be able to receive those updated release notes. But I'm going to go ahead and highlight some of the things that we've been working on this year and last year, just to remind you. So what we are supporting actually now is text-based enrollments. And really what that, I wanted to clarify kind of what that means, is a little bit more of a notification. So today, your practice can enable text-based enrollments. It's a configuration within Site Generator, and then your patients will be sent not only an email, but also an SMS if we have the cell phone on file for them. And then the notification will tell them that they have an invitation waiting in their email inbox. So we've also added support for Chinese and Vietnamese language on the patient portal. We've recently added support for care manager granular access control on both the patient side and the practice side, so that the patient, when adding a trusted representative, for example, can choose to give full access to their account, or they might only want to give access to a module within their account. So they could suppress, let's say, health records, and they could suppress medications, but they might want to keep, an appointment display and forms. So the patient would be able to do that now when they submit a trusted representative invitation. And the practice has the same capability to titrate that more granular permission within Practice Portal at a per patient level, or per guardian level, or per trusted representative level. And it kind of in combination with that, we've also added this dynamic disclaimer for inviting the trusted representative. The same workflow, but we've added a place where we have default disclaimer text that is made available to the patient, just basically reiterating, what they're about to do, which is sharing their health information with another representative, and that they can, kind of accept and take responsibility for that they're doing that. So we've added that disclaimer. As many of you know as well, we've updated our medication renewal request workflow. So it's a little bit more user-friendly. We have a add new medication capability that allows patients to select from a drop-down that's supported through IMO that will pull back a regular list of medications. Like, let's just say if I want to type ahead and find a medication and request it, we support that, as well as this workflow is now mobile optimized. And then we've also increased the patient attachment size from 2 MB to 10 MB, and we plan to increase that more and more over time to be more at level with kind of industry these days and technology. And then what we've been really focused on is ensuring that our base, our foundation is solid, and that we are poised to be ready for scalability, that our site is performant, particularly as we are adding on exponential patients and providers onto our system. This has been a huge focus for where we've been working and investing. And this gives you a little bit of an idea of the types of kind of under the covers pieces of change that we've absorbed, and also what we're planning on doing in the future. So, you know, we've started to isolate certain areas of our infrastructure to be able to move them into the cloud, which is ultimately the cloud being like the AWS, Amazon, so that ultimately we have more of a path forward for scalability. But in doing so as well, we've doubled down on investing in our databases and adding additional firewall processors. We continue to obsess about, you know, adding additional logging so that we have more visibility into where errors are being thrown, and that we can not only alert internally, but eventually expand that to also alert our practices and such for business critical items. And then, you know, in terms of data integrity, Justin mentioned this specifically with the GE segment. We had an issue with special characters, so that ends up preventing data from transacting between the patient portal and the practice. And we definitely have been working on areas where we can shore up that delta as well. But our bigger pushes for the future are this fuller AWS migration for all of the portal application into the cloud, and a refactor from Site Generator, which is our administrative tool that we use to set our configurations. And it's been something that we've been using for many years, but it's built in an older technology. You know, we have an opportunity to rewrite that UI in a more performant and optimized technology, and at the same time have that UI reflect the functions that we think are important for the future, versus still having a lot of functionality that really is kind of less relevant these days. So this newer tool we're calling the Command Center, and the Command Center is going to reflect all of your configurations, your practice level configurations, as well as reporting. And, you know, we're looking to create this tool in a way that can be available for a simplified experience for the different personas that are out there that support our portal, from a perspective of the clients, practice staff, internal staff, partners. So that's something that we're focused on as well. And then just a little bit about, you know, where we're going, like what's our path forward, vision and strategy. So I kind of mentioned this before, but this year we're hyper focused on stability, performance, and reliability, and kind of closing some of those competitive gaps. And we would like to add in a discrete data capability, and this service orientation is aligned to you know, the work that we're investing in with regards to the Command Center. But commercially, we you know, we continue to make available and highlight our chat support, and we do have an internal kind of patient portal marketing toolkit that allows us to have a set of material that practices can give to patients to kind of give more awareness as to the patient portal and its functions. So that's something available for our practice as well. These two pieces, automated document share and instant medical history, are really more specific to the NextGen base, but I just wanted to let you know that that's a focus commercially of where we're at as well. Okay, but where are we going? So in the next 2 to 5 years, like I mentioned, we're planning on migrating the entire application to the cloud and leveraging APIs directly. Particularly, we will be focused on leveraging NextGen APIs directly and being able to then create this experience where we have more discrete health data versus the reliance on the CCDAs, so that we can do things like display for a patient a list of their immunizations, or patient or a guardian, separately from the CCDA, or a list of their lab results. So that's the direction that we want to go, kind of unpeeling the health record as it is reflected today into more of a discrete health data framework. Then once we have that discrete health data in our application stack, we'll be able to key off of that data to drive, personalized, relevant experiences for patients and increase notifications along their healthcare journey. So this next slide is a little bit of a breakout according to themes around the different types of areas that we're focused. The first one, the first tower there is, of course, around performance and reliability. One of the things that I wanted to mention is many of these initiatives we've already started and or are multi-year. So for example, this migration to AWS is going to take us some time. It's not something that we're going to be able to accomplish in a short amount of time. It's a multi-year project. But then within the patient experience tower, we're focused on continuing to expand additional languages and getting feedback from our patients. Some of you might have noticed that we recently launched a new patient survey that we are leveraging from one of our internal tools to get patient feedback. We're working on a project that I call Unified Navigation Framework. We have an opportunity to kind of streamline the look and feel of the patient portal. I'll just give some examples, like today where we hop off to PSS as a separate, almost external application in a new tab. We do that as well for patient education. We want to bring those experiences back under the frame and then work on ensuring that the look and feel of each of our pages is consistent and most up to date. And while we're doing that, focus on accessibility. So there's some room for us to grow in terms of accessibility with regards to our patient portal, as well as analytics, like continuing to evolve our analytics so that we really understand where patients are having some challenges or which workflows work for them. We do have enhancing security via two-factor auth on our roadmap, and just in general, like I said before, this theme of reducing configuration complexity. And another tower of work is focusing on real-time services. Most of this is like pulling data real-time from the NextGen PM and EMR, and then making that available on the patient portal. And then this the fourth tower is about PXP embedded solutions. So I kind of mentioned that, like tucking those into the frame so that everything is really more seamless, and really even extending that to something like virtual visits, which is in our NextGen healthcare world is auto health. And then focusing on making our experience for notifications, elevating our SMS capability, and identifying based on triggers, appropriate triggers that are data driven, additional points where we can notify the patient. And then this slide is really just kind of breaking it out a little bit more just for that first tower to show you, that we've really already been focused on a lot of these subtopics and where we're going in the future. Okay, so this is an important piece. Wanted to bring up that in order for us to get to our future, we're going to need to simplify our architecture. And so we've already made the announcement that we're decommissioning the support for websites, and we've removed that capability from our application stack this year. And this year, we're also looking to decommission support for custom forms and any WSDK workflows. This next one about treatment plans, symptom assessments, virtual office, I'm pretty sure that those are not any more used, but just wanted to put those out there for some awareness. But with regards to custom forms and WSDK workflows, I mean, specifically as it relates to centricity, everything that we used to support in WSDK is available in RSDK. And I think with this last release, 22.1, specifically with the addition of the ability to route to individuals for RX renewals, even within your RX renewal workflow, you'll be able to enable prescription renewal by RSDK and complete that capability via RSDK workflows. So you should not have any dependency on WSDK anymore. With the exception of custom forms. So I do understand that might be a little bit of a challenge for some practices, but what we have done is we have automatically enabled patient forms for all of your practices. So you should be able to go into your site generator and see that patient forms themselves are enabled, and then add them to specific personnel types and associate solutions and providers and locations and such. And our hope is that you'll be able to spend this time between now and September to kind of recreate your forms that you have today in the patient form builder. And within the patient form builder, we do have two options. We have a template that we've already created called the registration and health history form. That's kind of a pre-configured template. And then we have a custom form. And I know that's a little bit confusing, but it's a custom form within the patient forms that allows your practice to use that form builder to build out forms, submit them to be published on the patient portal. Patients fill in those forms, and we will route the form back via a PDF to the patient chart. And we'll continue to support that mapping of the registration and health history form itself discreetly to your database and to your system. All right. So next, I want to be able to turn it over to Alan to talk a little bit about customer support.
Thank you, Sarah. Greetings, everyone. My name is Alan Waters. I'm the director of the Technical Support Center, Tier 1. As well, on the call with me today is one of the managers of the portal team, and that is Kevin Costello. Wanted to give you this quick update on support, because I know a lot of you, we've never talked before maybe, or you just wanted to know about our support structure. So today, as you see, we have Megan Tierney, who is Vice President of Support. That is who I report to. And then I have several other peers, Jay Willis, Director Tier 2, Kirby Caruso, Tier 3, as well as Laren Lutz, who is Escalation Management. And what Laren does for us is that when there is overarching escalation, whether that be at a client level or maybe product level, she helps ensures that all the resources, the appropriate resources, are involved. So just a little quick highlight there of who's who. So we can go on to the next one. I don't think I have. Okay, there you go. NextGen, when somebody says I'm going to call NextGen support, while NextGen Enterprise is a big part of NextGen support organization, it's not the only part. And these kind of the gold balls represent the core areas that you see are against the NextGen Enterprise team. That's underneath Megan Tierney. That also includes the technical side, which leads over into the managed cloud services. And I'm sure, like most of you know, connected health, or what some people refer to as MRF. But then we also have our RCM, revenue cycle management, and EDI teams. Although we all work together and we all pass cases back and forth, we get on calls together because you might have an issue in the portal that may require a technical resource, and so maybe the portal team needs that. So this is where, just to kind of show you the scope of looking down at our support organization. So, NextGen Enterprise Support is basically, we're working off of what we call break fix issues in the production environment. That is our top priority. And I think most of you would understand that. Something that's broken in production definitely has a lot more impact than something maybe in your test environment. Also, too, issues related to application performance and or slowness definitely are our top priorities. They will always override anything else that's going on. For that reason, we always like for people to understand kind of our priorities when it comes to working in support cases. Production first is priority, and then it kind of goes from there. Your training system maybe, or the test system. There are project-related issues that sometimes occur, and those project-related issues are typically going to be handled by a separate group. We typically don't have those cases come logged into us. They should be kind of going through your project manager if you have one. However, please keep in mind, every product has a little nuance to it. So you may not necessarily call them a project manager. You may call them something else when you're working with NextGen on your portal. We can go on to the next one. Next slide there. All right. I am correct in that we will be providing these slides out or a PDF version. Is that what I heard? Thumbs, Reed, do you know? Thumbs up? Anybody?
Yeah, and I was gonna. Hey, Alan, Reed. I was gonna touch on that momentarily. I think we had some questions around. Yeah, and we will be also sharing a copy of this recording as well. Once we get it downloaded and packaged, we'll be sending that out to the attendees and putting it on the success community as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure so people weren't sitting there, oh my God, phone numbers, let me grab them. And the next screen, you'll get these. These are your contact information. Obviously, we want you to use the portal, the NextGen Success Community, to log your cases. There's a link up there. But we do ask, a true critical, my system is down, needs to be reported by phone. The reason being is because we want to make sure someone is answering that call and assisting at that point, and not waiting for an electronic case. It still is okay if you log it that way, but just keep that in mind that we are starting to push more that when people have a true critical issue, contact us, call us. You'll use the NextGen Enterprise Support number. As you see on the screen is our normal business hours, as well as after hours support. Now, when you log a case on the portal and it's after hours, it's going to prompt that little box that you'll see at the bottom there is currently outside the hours. And what that's telling you is, hey, if this is truly let's say you marked it as a priority one, a critical, set one critical, it's going to prompt you, hey, are you sure this could impact billable rate? You could have billable work. Sometimes what happens is people are like, oh yeah, I didn't mean to check that. Standard business hour support is fine. And that's fine. It gets put into our bucket for our next business day. Likewise, if you call into our support center after hours, our voicemail will sound differently. Our voice message, I should say. You can leave a message as to what type of help you need there as well. You can go on to the next one there. Whoever's doing the. Okay. This is, I am not a fan of reading everything on the slide, everyone. But this is just some of the things that we ask that you, when creating a ticket, category, topic, subject, description. Basically, please know anything that you give us that tells us more about what the issue is. It helps us make sure it gets to the right people, the right routing. Please, if at all possible, no cases with it ain't working. Call me, please, because they're looking at that case against I am getting a system generated error 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's impacting this, and here's my issue. So call me doesn't get the same oomph in support as one that is got the details. Down at the bottom is our target response times, our critical or severity levels, and what the definition of that is. Keep in mind, it is totally okay. You may start out just because you created the ticket as a Sev 3, right? You're like, yeah, I can wait on this. I'm cool. I'm not going to be here in another hour. Get it tomorrow. But we can always up the priority. In fact, what you may see sometimes when you're working with support is that case priority may pop up to the next level, or it may even get pulled down to the next level, depending upon the impact, especially when that case is in the critical, because what we want to do is address the criticality of the issue, lower that while we're monitoring or applying whatever fix, and then if need be, if the issue comes back up, bringing it back up to the critical level. These last two slides, if you do not have easy memory to phone numbers and how to do stuff, the slide previous to this one and this one, I would suggest that you print those off and put them into your organization's downtime procedures or emergency procedures. The reason why I'm saying this is because we have seen some locales, like somebody runs over a pole that cuts out the internet. Somebody, God forbid, summer heat, like some of our Texas clients, we got a call and they were like, oh my gosh, we're going through required shutdowns. So, they had to shut down to just emergency devices like, the IVs and things of that nature. So that way, in case something goes wrong like that, or you're on vacation and you're the primary person, all that's documented. They know what to do and who to call. Okay, next slide. Again, not going to read all of this, but it does walk you through about we are a tiered organization. When you call in, you talk to our tier 1 support. Keep in mind when we say tier 1, that is our tier 1 to you. So we're like your tier 2 effectively. And our expectation is that your subject matter experts have already reviewed the issue. You've got the screenshots, you've got steps to recreate or whatever. Or if you're just asking a question, whatever that is about, that's subject matter experts. So I don't want you to think that this is like you're calling any other organization that we just put somebody in a seat and tell them to answer the phone. We do go through training. They have access to the knowledge. If they cannot resolve an issue, we do have a process that they can invoke to tier 2, as well as going up to even the next level, tier 3, and then all along that way we may be interacting with development. So just because you see a case moving from one person to another, that is not a bad thing. That's just our natural support process. What would be a bad thing if you're not getting any updates? So just keep that in mind. And the links here will be active on the PDF you get, but it's just about the escalation procedure, how to handle that as well. So we can go to the next one. Okay, if you have not, or you don't have anybody set up in your organization to do so, please at least do number 1, maintenance and outages. You should have somebody in your organization, hopefully 2 people in case you're out or whatever, that is notified with every post whenever there's something with a maintenance that's coming up, an outage that's occurring, whatever the case may be, so that you're alerted immediately and you can advise your team. Same way, the rest of the stuff is daily digest, or you can do it even on a weekly digest, but it is uber important that you have, I would like to see 2 people that handle the maintenance and outages, so that way if you're out, you get the notification. And then you can forward that internally in your organizations, so that way you can say, look, I told you, Dr. Phil, they were doing maintenance this weekend, so that way you're kind of kept up to date on everything. Okay, we can go to the next one. And I guess that's Q&A for us all. So hopefully that was not too boring of a presentation for everyone.
Thanks, Alan. Much appreciated. Very, very helpful, I believe. So I'm going to hand it back over to Sarah and team. We do have a few questions. I'm going to pick from here, and then I know we had some that had come in previous to the webinar here. And we're up against the time here, so we want to be respectful of answering the questions that we can, also within the time that you all are giving us today, which we greatly appreciate. So if we do not get to any topics today, we will make sure that we follow. We are going to be grabbing all the questions, and we'll make sure that we follow up with you directly with your account manager. But again, to reiterate, we will be recording this, and we will be sharing out a copy of that. One question, a little bit more specific to that, Sarah, was around the 22.1 release. Are there release notes out on the Success community yet that we can view?
Yeah, we've been working on the release notes, and those will be published along with this content. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Another question, and maybe we need to take this offline because I know we didn't dive too much into this, but it sounds like this is around our bulk messaging or our mass messaging. I know today we have the ability to do that out of the Centricity dashboard backend system, but we also have the patient portal ability to do bulk or mass messaging out of there as well. I think there's a current issue around the ability to upload a CSV file with a number of different patients in there and then sending out that one message. There's an issue adding attachments or adding all the different patients to that. Do you know if this release had anything to do working on that, or is that going to be addressed maybe in a different section?
Yeah, we would address that in a different release. It would be in a portal website release. But at this point, you're right that we don't support attachments to bulk messages.
Okay. All right. And then some other questions we had that came in. And one thing I wanted to touch on for you individuals in case there was concern around custom forms. If you're using the integrated, discretely integrated forms that you have mapped to observation terms today, you're using the patient forms, more than likely based off of the groups that I see here today, you're not using any of the old custom forms that Sarah referenced. I just wanted to call that out. There should not be any action taken, but we're happy to do a deep dive into what you guys have live today just to verify for you, but just wanted to let you know about that. Let's see. Sarah, one of the questions we had beforehand, how can the portal help with the Cures Act and promoting interoperability specifically?
Sure, and I think, so we kind of touched on this a little bit as well. Like in general, there's three kind of aspects that we have. One, we do have the automated messages that we support, and there's some level of titration in terms of filters that you can set up for sending certain messages or others. So that's one way. Another way would be, through our CCDA exchanges, most specifically the on-demand function, where patients can request, like I said before, any of their information at any time. And I realized that there's been a little bit of a challenge with this integration to get back those unsigned labs. And we do have this path forward, like Justin had stepped through earlier for that now with this release. And then, of course, we do have the ability to disable or hide from view certain sections of the CCDA, but in light of information blocking and kind of the direction that the country is going to make this information be available for patients, we recommend, being, deliberate when you're using that feature.
Perfect. I think the other questions that we had beforehand, we'll make sure that we follow up on those specifically and we'll grab any of the other questions out of the chat and make sure we follow up directly on those as well. But I just wanted to thank all of our panelists for your time today, and all of the attendees. Absolutely, thank you guys for attending in your time, listening to us. Hopefully we answered your questions. If we did not, please feel free to reach out to your account manager or myself or anybody else directly, and we'll be happy to help you all out moving forward. And thank you all again. And if there's any other follow-up or questions, please feel free to reach out, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.